Good evening, everyone. Oh my gosh, I always forget how bright it is up here and I can't see any of you. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Erin Quick. I'm the Executive Director at St. Louis Poetry Center, and thank you again all for coming tonight. We are thrilled tonight to welcome poets Tommy Archuleta and Ariana Benson for Observable Reading's last event of the fall. A huge thank you to those poets for joining us, and also to Tommy for leading our Sunday workshop yesterday, which drew a huge crowd. It was really great. Thank you so much for that. Some quick announcements before we get started. Just for some housekeeping, there are drinks for sale at the bar, courtesy of Kransberg Arts Foundation. It's a cash bar. Sorry, I should thank you for being here. Tip your bartender. That's what I was getting at. Bathrooms are to the right of the bar, my right, I guess their left. And we have books for sale tonight for the poets. They're for sale from Left Bank Books in the back there. So definitely get a book at the end and be sure to get it signed. I want to do some shout outs tonight to the Regional Arts Commission and the Missouri Arts Council, whose generous support helps to make this program, this series possible. Also to members of St. Louis Poetry Center, thank you to all who are here, to all who are out there in the interwebs. And if you're not a member, you can become one on our website at stlouispoetrycenter.org. Also, thank you to the High-Low and the Kransberg Arts Foundation for hosting us here every month, every season. We love being here, and we really appreciate the space. Thanks to Left Bank Books, our bookseller tonight, and Partners in Crime for all kinds of poetry literary events. And also, I saw somebody sneak in here tonight that I wanted to give a shout out to, Aaron Bells. For those who don't know, he's actually the founder of the Observable Reading series way back in the day. So it's really good to have him with us tonight. Thank you so much for being here. I also want to do one last special thanks and shout out, and that is to Dana Levin. This is a somewhat bittersweet reading, as it's Dana's last one as our program curator for Observable Readings. Dana has been with us, curating Observable since the summer of 2020. Yes, 2020. And the series continues to thrive. It continues and it thrives because of her efforts and her creativity and her dedication to this. She saw this program through the pandemic. She pivoting quickly with us and unflappably to our virtual events. Her delight in and voracious reading of contemporary poetry has really shaped and grown this series, expanding it aesthetically and also holding space for many, many, many diverse voices. Poets like Kaveh Akbar, Mary Jo Bang, Benjamin Garcia, Danica Kelly, Rick Barrett, Mary Royful, and Carl Phillips, just to name a few. She is passing the baton on to two wonderful new co-curators, Lizzie Peterson and Bailey Schomburg. Both of her are here tonight, so you get to meet them and say hello. Let's give applause to them for taking this on. This is great. They're also two voracious readers, huge passionate poetry advocates in their own right, and we're really excited to be working with them and have them coming on and leading this series as program curators going forward. Dana, where are you? I can't see anything. Okay, awesome. I have a little something for you if you want to come up here. We are so lucky to have you here in St. Louis. We at St. Louis Poetry Center are lucky to have you at the helm of Observable Readings for all these past few years. I know you'll still be with us, of course, as a board member and committee member, and just also as a endless champion of poetry. I'll miss working with you on this series. It's been such a treat, and thank you for your tireless efforts. Yeah. For all your support. You got us through a really crazy time. So that was really crazy. Yeah. Thank you so much. These are for you. These are for you. Some flowers to take home. And also thank you for just sharing the sheer joy of poetry with all of us and the comfort of it all the time. All the time. Thank you.
Let me just say that, I moved here in 2017 and I joined the board, I think in 2018.
Something like that.
And being involved with St. Louis Poetry Center was a really great way to just get to know poetry in St. Louis and just a sliver of it, because I know there's a lot that happens outside of us, but
yeah.
I've been very glad to work with everybody, and you're great.
Oh, you are too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here tonight. It's my pleasure to bring Dana up. She's going to kick things off for us, get it started. Thank you so much, Dana.
Hello. What a surprise. Thank you. I'm very, very happy that Lizzie and Bailey are gonna be taking over the helm here. And the programming will change and it'll be a different kind of observable readings. And I'm really excited to see what happens, and I hope you all continue to come back for our readings. Is that too loud? How's this? I'll do that. Great. So this is my last reading, as Erin said, and I am really excited that what we are going to feature tonight are the writers of 2 debut books. And the first reader is Ariana Benson. And where did I do it? Here it is. There's a really great foreword to this book, Black Pastoral by Sharon Strange, and I'm going to just read you a little paragraph of it. Sharon Strange writes, "In the geographical context of the U.S. South, in which many of these poems are set, intimacy is historically fraught with bondage, brutality, and blood, yet, as these poems show, with love too. But not romance, given the economies of violation and violent exploitation that forge relationship. The book's prologue introduces a through line, a series of persona poems, all titled Love Poem in the Black Field, that coalesces themes of history, identity, and nature, spiritually framing their relation to the Black body and to the existential stakes of Blackness in the United States. They establish this collection's mythic and epic scale." What I want to add to that is the thing that really struck me about this book was how rich it is with imagery, how grounded in the earth it is, while at the same time displaying an incredibly deep formal intelligence and a capacity to really feel into the history of place, and a cinematic focus. And just as an example, I'm just going to read you this one kind of sprawling section from one of the Love in the Black Field poems that I just could not get out of my head. The setting is Parchman Farm Chain Gang in Mississippi in 1911, and this is just the opening just blew me away. "How long since my left foot has known a day it did not spend drug along by your right? Since the first rust iron rattlers made fields of cattails kneel, fronds curdling like brow lines in the brutal heat? I forget my name, its sins when I march behind you. I know nothing of before, nothing but your nape, its tributary of creases." And it just goes on to bring you into the body of someone who is just ultra focused on the person in front of them as they are chained together in this chain gang. It's just wonderful, Ariana. Ariana Benson in 2022 became the youngest winner ever of the Cave Canem Prize, a book award dedicated to the discovery of exceptional manuscripts of poetry by Black poets. Benson is from Chesapeake, Virginia. She holds a bachelor's in psychology from Spelman College, a master's in poetic practice from Royal Holloway, University of London, and is currently an MFA candidate in English at Wash U. Her honors include a Furious Flower Prize, the Cave Canem Poetry Prize, and most recently, Ruth Lilly and Dorothy Sargent Rosenberg Fellowship from Poetry Foundation. Please welcome Ariana Benson.
Good evening. Thank you so much to the Observable Reading Series. Thank you, Dana Levin, for having me. Thank you to the Hilo. It's amazing for me to be reading in this space this evening with this art on the walls because, I mean, my first introduction to poetry was hip hop, and particularly as a Black woman, women in hip hop have always been the kind of center of not only my lyric or language-based practices, but kind of how I move in the world, right? I grew up obsessed with Queen Latifah on Living Single and in every rom-com she did, right? Even beyond her music. So to be in space and be looking around at pictures of sexy Red and Lisa Left Eye Lopez on the walls means a lot to me tonight. So thank you for the artist as well who created these works. So this evening I had a bit of trouble thinking about what I was going to read, and then an alum of the program that I'm in right now, WashU, a decorated alum, shared my book today on Instagram and shared a couple of poems. His name is Philip B. Williams, if you've heard of him. He's wonderful, and he blurbs the book, and he shared a couple of poems, and so I thought, well, if Philip likes these poems, then they're probably good enough to read, right? So I'll read 3 of the poems that Philip has selected, and then I will read a few more, and then I'll pass it on. Epithalamion in the Wake. And I should say, before I start this poem, an epithalamion is a poem that is read in celebration of a wedding or a marriage. Epithalamion in the Wake, the Atlantic Ocean, 1619. Now let come 2 who are chained in hand, in heart. 2 who, as dowry, offer a forever without end. Albatross and gannet circle on high, pealing like carrion bells. The white oak gunwale shredded by rabid brine, your broom to jump. But sharks do not clamor in the surf, commune under the hull, waiting to adorn your necks with gum-sprung pearls. The waves weave an isle of white horses and foam. Upon it, flowery seagrass floats. Come, while the billows surge. The froth soft and warm, while foul minds lie blank. A body of water is, in the end, but a field in which you cannot be shackled. Know yourselves now, as but souls clothed in skin, saying, I do in refusal. As one above the arched brink, the skim waxes, the altar glistens, starlit. The cowries reel, throw themselves at your feet, being now blue maroons. Unbound by time or tradition, you took vows a fortnight ago, a sightless swear uttered in dungeon murk, a promise made before 1,000 sighing silhouettes. Remember the gaze you learned to trust absent light, how it returns yours with equal urgency. How you studied your betrothed's face with your thumbs. A love that knows no blind faith is none at all. A love that knows nothing but ocean is one that cannot drown. This next poem is a theodicy, and a theodicy is just a kind of theory or an attempt at explaining why God might allow bad things to happen. And I think it's a form that is especially relevant now when we think about all the things that are going on in the world. I find myself questioning a lot why, as someone who believes in a God, he would allow bad things to happen. Theodicy on my blackness. To know the tiger is to know God has claws the width of her stripes. The first tiger, born unpatterned, did not go lightly into her own mauling, appreciating from then on the agony she need inflict to eat, to survive. The centipede took an extra foot for every step its venom might deny. The lizard plucked his legs from the snake in exchange for becoming her prey. Eve bit the apple, and Adam, having watched, swallowed the remainder whole. It lodged in all his sons' throats. Even he created a son, a world, all to know any kind of lasting suffering, wearied after eons of cosmic perfection, as if loneliness boiled down to its core were truly a pressing want for pain. You understand by now that this life is one of impossible choices, that his fare does not match our own, that the apparent spotless are simply less willing to be reminded of some original sin. But I know who I was before I took this body, before his asking which color skin in which I'd like to wash my soul. And when I chose, I remember his allowing me the dignity of not asking if I was sure. Black Pastoral. There is a kind of poetry in a turning that leaves a body redder than before. Golden drupes ripen, orchards flush rouge, sweetness curls the blades of leaves that once sprouted green. Fall confetti rains, red herrings in pretend surrender, showers of bleeding white flags. Yes, even the trees play possum when a cold force looms larger than they. They freeze, mine stone from wood, statue themselves like deer. Enter the fledgling buck. See him just barely, a tawny smudge blinking back at you through the landscape's static. His molting crown, one shredded antler, a tree in its own visceral autumn. The other a felled trunk at rest in the ashen grass. Enter the black boy. See his roots leave little coffin prints in the ground, what lingers in the foam of his wake. They stand together, this boy, this tree, this deer, each a lone solstice removed from fawnhood, from his spring pink and summer blushed self, the memories of whom live only in the glossy black of the other's eyes. They reminisce for a moment in unblinking silence. Then see the boy's tiny hands, dotted with birch nut knuckles, his womb-smooth palms split along umber fault lines as they meet to cradle the lost horn and turn it upright in the frost, making sapling of skeleton. Now hear a distant whistling, a herd of cocked rods dragging like fingernails over the shivering ground, its goose-bumped skin. See our subjects assume the position of hibernation, of stagnant and threatless sleep, praying they will awaken when the white recedes. They learned in leaving the red of their mothers the danger of hound-sounded men who, upon cornering a creature dark with life, ponder the taste of metal-peppered flesh. They know to freeze, to still their limbs, wait for the melt, for the trees to weep the winter out. The silent sobs a prelude to the red, not of end, but of moss, of possibility. A certain sickness. Maybe I carry animals in my pockets. And where you imagine I've tucked a barrel's nose lies instead the huffing muzzle of a beast untroubled by my flesh-worn dark. A hunger I thumb through all of taxonomy to identify. Fanged as a piranha, madder than an abandoned cub. When I disappear my fists into those twin wilds, they reemerge, claw-mauled and oozing. How delicious, this agony, like pressing a bruise to deeper blue and branding it night. Allow me, if nothing else, a moment to lap at what leaks. I have a certain sickness that makes me love my freshest stripes. And maybe I'm proudest of this red touch. Of the way no one leaves my embrace with a shirt white as it was when I first held them. My sternum, itself a pocket. My clavicles, threadbare seams. My gasp catches soft as lint in thick hair. When I die, I hope to leave behind more than an unleaded chest, a viscid stain, its brassy wax. Maybe all I need to know is to know men won't walk away from me clean. So this next poem, I was talking to Tommy at dinner, about caretaking. Caretaking is something that I've been thinking about a lot more recently. My grandmother has Alzheimer's, and so she lives with my parents. And taking care of someone whose memory and perception of the world changes on a daily and even hourly basis is a really dynamic experience. And it also has, for me, watching my mom caretake has made me think of the ways that my poetry is interested in the kind of tiny emotional valences of the human experience, and how my grandmother experiences all of those seemingly in just a few hours. So this poem is for her and for the caretakers. Cloud animals. We're driving. No, I'm driving. And you've left me for the woods. Lean back, silvered nape kissing the top of your shoulders, you grab my free hand to point with it, as if the hand's sole purpose is to lead the eye to sight. You grin. Tell me you don't see a bear. My foot weighs down the brake. The stoplight is red, so I join you among the trees that could pass, perhaps to a younger eye, for clouds. We search for animals. A squirrel in a monkey's gentle fist. A fish just leapt from a fragile creek, the back of a fox's head. You say, can't you just imagine that bird flying through the sky? Yes, I say. If only it were real. Your forest of stumbling cubs and buds yawning the mist from their lips, and you forever in it. Just out of your view, a doe hangs, suspended. The light seems redder now. I tell you to look at the swan, its folded neck. A car backfires. You blink. The doe is no more. It's my fault. More than death, I fear it's impending. A heavy gray blanket drags slow over all our heads. You're not mine to wish gone, yet I do wish for that blue nothingness to arise where there remain only pale wisps broken up by plains and hurt and life. How to tell someone I want after for you. The light changes, drains the green from the trees that wither in the weak sun of your memory. My foot loses its lead. Your hand loses my hand to the turning wheel. I think I will read just a couple more poems and a couple of those love poems in Blackfield, which were inspired by my kind of meditation on love and on the Black field specifically, right? I'm a Black Southerner, so there are fields everywhere of peanuts, cotton, even some tobacco still. And of course, that's a very fraught place for me, right? Historically, ancestrally. But I've always been someone who is in love with nature, right? I was a tree hugger, climber, whatever verb, and I was somebody who always found such beauty and such understanding of the world in what was not human. And it felt like it was a better way to express my love than I could through the kind of more human spaces of interaction. And I also think a lot about love and all that it survived, particularly Black love, right? It survived those fields, it survived those trees, and I know it survived because I wouldn't be here reading these poems if it didn't. So these poems are in honor of that love and its strength and its determination to survive. Prologue, love poem in the Black field, somewheres, some lifetimes ago. I have run so far, so long. There is nowhere I haven't been but here, in this field, a body length from the ragged brink that gives way to forest. I collapsed here, the thin, hard slip of me whittled at both ends. I want badly to brave this aloneness now, as the hoofbeats swell like a whip welt around me, but I cannot. I weep for you. Clutch the hogweed, imagine it your wrist. Likewise, the stalks refuse to bend, even slightly, inside my balmy grasp. Oh, my saving grace, my heart's rest harrow. Mere thought of you dams the plows that would have my head. When you arrive to pull me up from the mud, the salt will crumble from my eyes that for nights have seen nothing save that cardinal north from which the stars beckon, those stars that, like you, never fade from sight, even in the day blue sky. Then, for weeks, unspeaking, will follow their call, afraid to make more sound than does a mothling upon her first and final embrace with the open flame for which she confuses caged light. Such silence will we keep that I'll believe it is the river who thanks me for our crossing, and not you, for waiting for me, you'll whisper, as if I have done you a kindness, as if my life is not one that began only when we met, as if I had not been dead and waiting for you before. Love poem in the Blackfield, Chesapeake, Virginia, 1891. Listen, I did not mean to come to you empty-handed, to be yet another who only takes. My father taught me better than to milk dry what I cherish. I want to bring you my fists full of wildflowers, buttercups and loose strife, aster and thistle pure as wind. I paid the man at the riverbank. His cedarwood cart splintered by the brackish spray, his nail bed stained a deep blue that fades like shoreline into tan. I bought you a lush posy to hold while we watch schooners troll the swamp. But darling, I've been an owned thing. Been the orphan calf baying. Been the birthday pay cut and baled a few days before. I know we keep livestock for meat and hides, hens for their eggs, but is beauty enough reason to claim what once lived unpossessed? Please understand. I had to put them back in the dirt. I plucked their seeds with my teeth, spat them along the trail, felt each one crush under the stone of my heel as I walked here to you. I know I must sound mad. I hope I'm the kind of mad that makes you feel most whole. Think how, when we're sun-pruned and weary, we'll stroll here among the wayward blossoms. How right to love in a field of our own making. Just two more. I was talking to Miss Vicky back there. Shout out Miss Vicky, thank you for working this event. And it's funny because she has lived in Hampton Roads, which is where I'm from, Hampton Roads, Virginia. And so I was thinking about what to read, and I thought I'd read this poem that is about Norfolk, Virginia, which is where my parents grew up. Hotbeds in Norfolk, Virginia. It's nothing to be woken by the hammering racket of collapse, to bathe with tap drip the tint of hands' sunsides. Life among ruins means something is falling at all times, means knowing how long I have to get out from under a spreading shadow. Today, they flattened the house across the street into memory. Siding panels rotting like rinds of the yard's clovers and crabgrass. It's constant, the vinyl harvest. Red, yellow, pink, all stripped to the same blanched flesh. To make a space more enticing, they say. But I was fed on sweetness sprung up from dirt. and nobody skins an apple they intend to candy. O'Hara wrote once about Norfolk, said to have exercised here, blown breath into air here, is to have been to bed with a nigra. And what a way to admit knowing a place only by the way it looks from above, when on top of it, moving in and out of it at will. Last week, they erased the turquoise house, its kitchen where I learned not to play around the hot stove, where I earned scars the one in my bed grazes with lips brown like water, like mine. Someone silenced the rocks we used to kick down the blacktop, their scrapes filling the gaps in conversation. Someone keeps sticking the same scribbled on slips between my locked door and its frame. Someone sprayed the big weed that planted itself in the fractured concrete before we could even bend our tongues to dub it flower. Soon, all the wrong green will be brought to wilt. The truth is, there are many Norfolks full of our deep hotbeds, our colorful plots. It's nothing to pass one while driving, to speed up at the first sign of us. The rubble lot of a First or Second or Seventh Baptist church, for instance. The black dust of its crumbling never allowed to settle. And so you roll your windows up, tighten your hold on your breath. The last poem I'll read is the love poem in the Blackfield that Dana so beautifully began. It's always such a treat to hear another poet reading your work out loud. I've read these poems a million times at this point. So to hear it read in someone else's voice is such a treat, really. So thank you again, Dana. Thank you, Hilo. Thank you, Left Bank Books. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Love poem in the Blackfield. Parchman Farm, Chain Gang, Sunflower County, Mississippi, 1911. How long since my left foot has known a day it did not spin drug along by your right? Since the first rest iron rattlers made fields of cattails kneel, fronds curdling like brow lines in brutal heat. I forget my name, its sins, when I march behind you. I know nothing of before, nothing but your nape, its tributary of creases, but your gait, pressing smooth miles of street-side weeds. What else can a lonesome road boy do but look at the one to his front? You, with keloid scars inside even your ears. You, with long lashes that, when blinked, seem heavier than these chains, all the men they carry. What I wouldn't give to see your eyes open again after that brief, merciful closing. What I don't have to give. What I know, if I did, I would. Thank you. Worried about not being loud.
Hi, thank you for that reading. It's beautiful. Our next reader is Tommy Archuleta. I've known Tommy for nearly 20 years. It'll be 20 years in 2024. I met Tommy at College of Santa Fe when I was a teacher and he was a student, but even then, Tommy was writing poems that were really exciting. And now we have Tommy's debut collection, Susto, that Tommy will read from tonight and tell you about. The debut collection, Susto, offers entry into a dreamscape made of memory and symbol, inflected by the dry mountain landscape of northern New Mexico and his family's long history of settlement in the region. In Susto, the veils between oracular vision and hallucination, the living and the dead, are thin to non-existent. Yet even through grief and confusion, there's an earthy, bemused quality to Archuleta's voice as he navigates being a soul tethered to a body, a world, quote, where love keeps rhyming everything with loss. The formal rhythm of the book is striking. Prose instructions for healing rituals weave in and out of suites of sharp-edged couplets where poems speak in an elemental tongue like this. This is one of my favorite poems in the book. Never burn unsent hate letters to the drought, unless you want for your people 40 more years under the God-given blades that took your great-grandfather's fields. And never, whatever you do, curse the fever that took your beloved mother. Doing so will only wake then, maim the darkest thing inside you. Believe you me. Diane Seuss said about Susto, in this book, Archuleta has delivered us back to the sublime. Tommy Archuleta is a native northern New Mexican. He works as a mental health therapist for the New Mexico Corrections Department. Susto, his full-length debut collection of poems published by the Center for Literary Publishing, is a 2023 Mountain West Poetry Series title. He is also the author of the chapbook Field Notes, Lilly Poetry Review and Books, 2023. And Archuleta was just recently featured as one of 5 writers this month in Poets and Writers' annual 5 over 50 feature, a series devoted to writers debuting first books after age 50. He lives and writes on the Cochiti Reservation. It has been my pleasure to be able to spend time with him over the last couple of days, talking about the body and the soul and everything around and between it. Please welcome my friend, Tommy Archuleta.
That's really quiet. Wow. Hello. This is really weird. I don't get out much, so this is really. I came a long way. We had a wonderful dinner. Man, you really smoke. Wow. It's really. Your fire is really inspiring. Thank you, Aaron and Lizzie, and I made a new old friend, Bailey. She's crazy, and I met John. My God, John. He's like, your fire is crazy too. We had a wonderful time yesterday too with the workshop, talking about poems. And Dana took me to the botanical gardens, and she didn't leave me there, which it's kind of unfortunate because I wanted to stay there. So before I read from here, I have to explain a little, just in the spirit of accessibility. So the term Susto, the more common definition is fright and shock also. And but when these poems started to surface, as they did really early in the morning, about 4 months after my mother passed, in August of 13, she passed. She was diagnosed with congestive heart failure in like April of 12. And so within a year, she shrank, you know. It's one of those conditions where the body shrinks, and which is weird because her heart seemed to like expand at the same time. And I didn't have anything to do, and as you know, when to love deeply is to grieve deeply, right? And so I was just fucking kneecapped, totally, and hadn't written in a while, you know, and a few months later, these short, I call them tiles, they just started coming out, you know, and I mean, certainly not in the form they are now, you know, but it was something, and I got enough together, and they just started to come together. I didn't know about the title though until I got into grad school. We were studying the diagnostic manual, the DSM-5, and they started to add culture-based conditions in the back. And we were going through it, and there's susto, and the explanation was that it's a condition where the soul leaves the body due to a traumatic event or series of events. And so I just, well, there it is, that's it. I mean, I was like, no, so that's what's fucking wrong with me. So I did some drafts, and then all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and the work was saying, you need to go back in now, again. Because people were fucking dying everywhere, right? And so mother started to mean more things. Because climate change started, you know what I mean? So I'm just gonna read, because I don't wanna fuck it up. And anyway, these poems, they're weird, once you get in. And I swear to God, I was talking to Ariana earlier, that some of these poems, I don't know who the fuck wrote them. I don't remember doing. And then I'm at that age where my ego won't allow me to wear progressive lenses. So there's that too. And then these poems, they came out really early in the morning, and they were really quiet. So I'm gonna try to do these justice here. The blue jays and blackbirds, how loud they sang that night, cold as it was, and so far upriver. I see round lights too sometimes, dancing in the field, no dog will cross. I still smell snake root burning, or is that hair? Maybe I'm sleeping still. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm someone else's son, praying they soon find me. Another velvet painting, please, of the Mother of God, please God, to replace the one my horse ate. Or are we given one and one only, every time around? Only one scythe-like moon under her. Only one gold brooch forged into a cross. Only one star-strewn blue-green gown eaten here and there by cloud-white moths. What else? A stone, a leaf, a stash of cranes bathing ungodly late where the river slows most. Soon you will know every window back home, once nailed shut, now opens and closes freely. That every saint you snapped in two now stands whole on the sills and dressers of every room waiting there for you, the wolf, you, the crow, you, the weary supplicant. You guys are so well behaved. I say that because I work in a prison. I never told you this, but in one dream, I'm watching me burn the robe she died in. In another, it's some man with no arms, maybe no face, and he's singing, "Here I am, Lord." He's naked and standing in a field, years fallow, the songs shifting, wiry shadow, eating half-dead funeral flowers in the arroyo nearby. All those faces on the floor, the tiny chunks of coal I keep finding in my bed, in my boots, in my mouth. And no matter how high or far he threw all 26 letters he loved to cut up, they would spell "forgive me" every time when they landed. And wherever they would land, he would swear never again to stamp the hand of Mary clean off just to see what color her blood is. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not a happy cotton candy, rainbows, fireworks poet. Love thank you. Love as seed or love as plow. End as end or end as opening. Either way, why go on fearing the dark, part God, part doorway? Go ahead, ask me. So, sprinkled throughout these books, these remedies. My mother's father was a curandero, which is an art form where indigenous, plants and roots they're prepared in different ways to treat different maladies. And my mom dabbled in it, and it seemed that the work was calling for something, a different voice. And so this voice of a curandera, which I kind of think, I just kind of like, I think it was one of, so the house I live in is my mom and dad's dream home. And after she died, I had it in my head that we should sell the house. And it took me a while, but I realized that house is one of my dad's connections to my mom. And I asked them, or not actually, I forget how it was, but he told me in certain words, he couldn't understand why he loves her more now in her death than he did when she was alive. And so I think that this voice was sort of my connection to her. This is a remedio anil de muerto. To aid safe passage, pick the blue-green leaves when the flowers have fully bloomed. Air for one day and one night prior to mashing. Coat the tip of a wooden stake with the pulp before driving it into the foot of the loved one's grave. Bury the rest of the pulp at the base of the headstone. pray ceaselessly as before. Just, or pull out your phones and check your mail to let me know that it's time to stop. I forgot. Was it you or me that caught welcoming the first frost with drums and bellflowers? The year mother's mind went the way of the orchard. Was it you or me who hears laughter, ribbons of it, coming from the grave, with not one single death green plastic vase to speak of? But torture, of all tortures, wouldn't you say, for that one sunstruck plastic flower? From here, these clouds must look black to him, black as his first guitar. Ever notice how hard it is to breathe when you can't stop bleeding? Here, where every little hook you find makes a little cut that hates the word heal. Here, where time means smoke, end means flying, and the eyes are this close to useless. From dust this hope to die red, rounds and rounds of bread, gold as the sun. Imagine. And on the bridge railing, the crow behind me saying, the higher you fly, the darker life becomes. The darker life becomes, the more you find forms of silence you never before knew existed. There, the mayor's plow horse can now roam free, at least until noon, when the hunters return from the canyon. The scrub jays leave the fields for the river. The dying review yesterday's vespers, and father sits down to write his daily love letter to suffering, with or without pen and paper. What was that? You're right. I best go check on him. Thanks, you guys. You guys are awesome. Yeah, again, thanks to everybody. Hilo, amazing coffee. Met a new friend. And, I just wanted to say, just three important poets to me were taken by cancer. Jay Hopler and Saskia Hamilton. I never met her, but her work has really just touched me. And my grand mentor passed away recently, and I think if you don't have a book yet or you're not getting published, I just want to say that getting your work out there can be a goal, but for me, it's been the practice itself has been healing, and I don't know of a time in my life where I've ever needed healing this much. And so you don't need to be a successful poet to be a poet. I think we should all be writing our poems. thank you all. I am so humbled to be here, fully clothed and unarmed and mostly bathed.
Friends, thank you for coming. Please buy books and talk to the poets. And any questions that you may have, they will be here. Left Bank Books is here to sell books. We're really glad that you came. Thank you.